So there is a yearly Katie Nuggets poll, and in the most recent one, data scientists said that the data set size that they work with the most is between 1 gigabyte and 100 gigabytes. And interestingly, that's the same as a decade ago.
Yeah, it's not moving.
Yeah, and so does this have any implications for the future development of scikit-learn, especially with data-centric AI?
Well, so I've been looking at the same numbers. And this number is interesting because it's the number where you're just borderline happy on a laptop. It works, but you need to be careful not to copy the data a few times. So that's something I'd really like to have, and it's going to take a little while, is to be able to work better with almost out of core. And so, I mentioned that we're getting better at having things like QPA arrays. Maybe one day we'll get better at having things like DOSC arrays or Polar's lazy array, but Polar's lazy array actually live in the scrub world because, well, they're not lazy arrays, they're lazy data frames. And so data frames live more naturally in the scrub world. So once again, I'm thinking ecosystem. I'm thinking, how can we make it easier for people who work with these kinds of data sets? They're probably, a few tables that, take 100 megabytes or a few gigabytes. And if you look at the problems, a lot of this is data preparation. And so I really want to streamline data preparation. Now that's scrub. Going back to scikit-learn, our efforts are on better model inspection, which isn't easy because we need to understand which methods are reliable, convey the proper understanding to the user. Better model validation, evaluation. Here we're looking at better metrics, better choice of metrics. It's a lot of details. One thing I would really like to see, and I hope we're going to see this in a little while, is to be able to have a report on a model that reports many different things in terms of evaluating a model and auditing a model. Ideally with guidelines on, well, for instance, you have a severely imbalanced data set, you should probably not be looking at accuracy. It's so really helping the user. One thing I'd like to see, but the work hasn't started, is to get more easily inspection of a grid search or random search for people to easily know what their hyperparameters, the important hyperparameters are. So, some effort I would really like to see is really going in this usability. A feature that was merged in just recently that I'm excited about, it's really a detail. So these days, if you do a representation, a rep of an estimator, you have a small, diagram. And we want to improve this. So there's a bit of engineering that goes on. But just recently, we have the color of the diagram that changes when the estimator has been fitted versus not fitted, because that's an easy mistake that people do a lot. We have a little question mark button that when you go on it, sends you to the online web page of the estimator. And I'd like to keep improving this. So here it's interesting because we're actually going into user experience. And in terms of opportunities of contributing, by the way, we don't have many people who are really good at UX. This requires front-end skills, CSS skills. It's hard because we can't rely on, classic frameworks such as Bootstrap, because we need to be able to work in a Jupyter Notebook and VS Code. And so here, there's clearly, in my opinion, a lot to be done.
That's very cool. Yeah, user
experience. I think those are the biggest things I'm excited about. Maybe one day, I hope we're going to get there. Maybe one day we're going to get basic AutoML. Or maybe I'm overselling it when I say AutoML, but basically better code to select hyperparameters. We have a bunch of efforts that go in there. I'm really hoping that we're going to get what we called hyperparameter spaces, that's going to take a while, but the ability for models to suggest what are the good range of hyperparameters that should be explored, that should simplify people's life massively. One recent thing that we had that's super important is that we have metadata routing. Now that's incredibly technical, but that's the kind of stuff that allows you to do a cross-validation that accounts for data that's non-IID, where you have natural groups in it. It's the kind of stuff that allows you to build fairness measures, to build causal measures. So it's super technical. I hope it's going to pan out.
Yeah, those are all fantastic, exciting areas to be going into. Obviously, this kind of UX focus, super interesting because of the kinds of complexities you mentioned, like having to be able to work in Jupyter notebooks. And yeah, AutoML would obviously be hugely useful.
I forgot one thing we're working on really
yeah.
hard. Better logging. And that's also really complicated. So the challenge we have in scikit-learn is we don't want to be a framework. We want to be a library. But things like this, you're better done in a framework. So that better logging is, we have Jérémy Dubois-Béranger working on better logging that's quite extensible to be able for people. So it will have trivial consequences, so progress bars on fitting pipelines, but it will have also more fundamental consequences, ability to monitor details of the pipeline. I would hope that this enables us to do better MLOps, which is something we're looking at.